and welcome to our Connected Farming programme. I'm Rebecca Wilson, a sheep and arable farmer from North Yorkshire. Like many of you watching, I know firsthand the challenges that farmers are facing at the moment, whether that be navigating policy, the weather, or market volatility. But what happens if we can see these challenges as opportunities to innovate, streamline, and take advantage of the latest technology out there? That's where Omnia comes in. It's a powerful farm management software which puts data at the heart, connecting everything. It's shaping the future of farm businesses to be more sustainable, efficient, and profitable. To help me talk more about Omnia, I'm delighted to welcome Lewis McCarrow and Ollie Wood. They're two people at the heart of the development of Omnia. We'll be chatting to Adam. Now, I'm not going to ask you for a weather forecast over there, but we will be seeing some live in-app functionalities of Omnia. Later, we'll be joined by David Hutchinson. Lewis, let's start with you. What's your background and how did you get into the development of the programme?
So I grew up on a dairy farm in southwest Scotland. I was fortunate that my dad encouraged me to go out and get an education, even more fortunate that I listened to him, to be honest. So post-uni, I moved to the east coast of Scotland and worked for a farming business over there for 6 years. So I've got a little bit of a flavour for all different types of farming across the industry. I went to train to be an agronomist, did basis and facts, and then very sort of quickly after becoming an agronomist, I got involved in the technology side of things. So I've been here for 7 years now, working with Omnia and grown from there, really.
And Ollie, how did you come to be involved in the development?
So I joined the business about 11 years ago, and I've been involved since the beginning. So we built the Omnia platform as a precision ag platform, predominantly around variable applications. And it has evolved over that time to now be the full farm management system that it is now.
And Adam, where do you fit in the Omnia team and how did you get there?
Yeah, so I'm the son of a retired horticultural agronomist who worked for Hutchinsons. So as I was growing up, I kind of saw firsthand like the relationships that he formed with his growers. But my background's actually in education, so I spent 12 years lecturing in a further education college. Hutchinsons recognised that there was a significant need for training support related to Omnia. So that's where I've come in, went through basics, went through facts to get an appreciation of what growers are up against. And yeah, so now heavily involved in the training side of things.
Lewis, we keep talking about Omnia, but what is the platform? What does it deliver for farmers?
Omnia really started its life as a precision farming and nutrient management software ultimately, and then as we've sort of grown, we've been asked to add more and more things to it, and ultimately that's led us to where we are today as a fully fledged farm management software. So, you know, for those advanced users, they can really get into the depth at a subfield level about crop performance, and for, you know, people that maybe don't want or need that sort of depth, they can just stay at a basic level. So there's really a bit of something for everybody in there.
Ollie, let's widen this conversation out a bit. Why do we need farm management software, you know, with the farming landscape as it is at the moment?
I think there's so much pressure on farming at this time around farm economics. Farmers really need to understand where they're making profits and whereabouts they're not. They're needing to control costs. They're needing to control inventory. But then at the same time, there's people that are there selling their produce to, wanting to know a lot more about it. So records are really important, and actually having that in a central place so that they can just get that as and when it's needed is a really important thing for our customers.
And in terms of, I guess, the data, how does Omnia connect farmers to their data and to their farming businesses?
The way that it works, it's cloud-based, so you can access it from anywhere. We've got lots of different people using the system in lots of different ways, depending on what their challenges are that they're trying to resolve.
With the cloud-based technology that they use, I mean, one of the challenges we get is, well, that's fine until out in the middle of nowhere and don't have a phone signal, because we know that, you know, rural connectivity can be a challenge, and that's ultimately where we introduced the Scout app for Android and iOS, which works offline, so you can effectively take all of your data out into the field and still use it offline as well. So we've got that sort of best of both worlds.
So with many farmers and growers making that shift to digitisation or online record keeping, how does Omnia and I guess in particular the Scout app make it intuitive and hassle-free?
Whatever we do in Omnia, we always sort of challenge ourselves to make sure that it's easy to use for all users. Whether you're at the moment you're not using farm management software, maybe you're paper-based, we've made it easy to use your SBI number, get your farm maps off the RPA website, and within 5 minutes you've got all of your farm in Omnia to start adding the crops to. So that is very, very easy, and for those who maybe are using other systems, we've made it easy to seamlessly be able to connect to those and take the core information in to get people started, really.
Well, let's pull out a couple of strengths and benefits as you see them, Ollie, from the Omnia platform.
I think for me, one of the main strengths we have is that the system is continually being worked on. It's continually adding in new features. If I look at what we've added over the last 3 to 5 years, we've added in a lot of new things that have been ultimately driven by our users in terms of them coming to us and say, it would be really good if, whatever that is. And we listen to that, we take it on board, and then we bring those in. So we really kind of take on board what our users are wanting and then try and then get that to work within the platform.
In terms of any other strengths that you can pull out, Lewis, what would you say?
100% for me, it would be the sort of map-based approach that we've taken with Omnia. And, very much the feedback from our customers is they want to sort of farm on a map-based system. You've got your SFI and environmental schemes that you've got to sort of log. And it's a very visual thing to be able to look at that. And especially operators, especially maybe where they're not familiar with the farm, it's very easy to access and see and visualize that. And just recently we've sort of added a navigate function so that if you've got a very spread out farm, you can literally press on a field and navigate yourself to it.
So with that visual element of the maps in mind, I think it would be great to head to you, Adam, and see that in practice.
So one of the things you'll hear a lot from us today is that everyone loves a map, so here's ours. And I think the thing you can see on here straight off is that very, very visual, very, very clear, so we can get a kind of a quick grasp of what's happening on farm. We've got different colours for different crops, so winter wheat in red, oilseed rape in yellow, so on and so forth. But one of the big things that we have collectively talked about already is the idea that the grower is in control of how they want to use the system. So there's lots of different functionality. You don't necessarily have to use it all. If we kind of decide we want to use very specific elements, we can do that. So for example, here, it might be that I want to be able to differentiate more easily and more visually between different varieties or different crop purposes or different descriptions, like first and second wheats, for example. So we'll just go through an example. So if I scroll down to this field of potatoes, we can have things like plot numbers. We can toggle on our variety colours, which we have complete control over. So visually we can see that there are different varieties in the ground and kind of follow those through. Equally, for those growers who are in the SFI, you don't want to be kind of constantly going back and checking, which actions did I have in which field. It would just be a bit time consuming. So very, very easily in our map, we can just toggle on our management options and you'll see that we've got the codes for the actions that are in that particular field. So it just saves us that time of constantly having to check things and we can be true to our agreements.
In terms of covering previous years covering, do we have the ability to look back when we're, deciding on rotations?
Yeah, 100%. So we have two kind of key views. So at the minute we're in the main map view, but if we want to view it as a timeline, we can do that. So we've got this option up at the top. And what we can see here is the kind of the visual, which shows us the gaps between crops and the kind of, we've got accurate start and end dates and things like that. So we can very visually and very quickly ascertain, are we into second cereals, so on and so forth.
And where can I actually see this? Is it just on the computer like you're on now or phones?
So if we're in the farm office, then we've obviously got this on screen. But if you're using the Scout app, whether that's on mobile, on a tablet, then you can be out in field and have access to all of those maps. So the good thing about that as well is that the app will show you where you are on the holding. So if you're kind of new to the holding, might be seasonal staff or something like that, you can kind of use it to navigate your way around the farm. And you can also bring up other map layers for other useful information, whether that's access points, where all the telegraph poles are, where farm tracks are, all of that sort of information, we can build that into the mapping, so you've got quick access to it.
I think a really interesting point on that is we do see a lot more farm managers now with an iPad in their truck. This is the view that they would get on there as well, so they've got the entire thing with them at all times in their truck, so that they don't need to be going backwards and forwards to the office. The data is there with them as well.
And if you don't have yield mapping, well, we've got satellite imagery built in, so you can look at key performance of crops. And we've got people that actually digitise quite a lot of their historical information. For example, one map layer that quite often is either pinned to the wall or sitting in some folder somewhere is drainage maps from the 1960s or something. Well, actually, you can digitise those and put them in Omnia. I mean, Adam, could you bring that layer up? And we'll have a look at that. So you can see here that you can take a photo literally on your phone, put that into Omnia, snap it to the field, and for generations that's then now been digitised for anybody to walk out into the field and actually line themselves up with where that drain should be. Now, whether it is actually there, that's a different matter, but yeah, it's a very handy tool that people find.
Well, let's hear from some of those farmers and growers who are using these functionalities every day on their farms.
My name's James Griffin. I'm the farm manager on Fonthill Contracting, which is a Belcourt-run contracting firm down in Wiltshire. We look after just over 3,000 hectares for 6 different clients.
I'm Libby Fisher, I'm from Fife. Our home farm, Airdrie, is about 1,700 acres that we're farming with arable crops.
My name's Nick Shorter, I'm the Chief Executive for Belcourt Group. We look after about 120 different farms and farm businesses across the UK.
I'm Gavin Lane and we're at Manor Farm, Tittershaw. We're in a rotation of wheat, winter barley, oilseed rape and then countryside stewardship schemes intermingled with that.
My name's Graham Innes and we're at Windy Walls Farm, Kelso in the Scottish borders. So the farm is around 850 hectares. Main crops are wheat, oilseed rape, winter and spring barley, spring oats and vine and peas.
On the farm there's quite a few people that have access to our Omnia, our tractor driver, my father, myself and the agronomists that we work with.
The Omnia Scout app is on my phone, it's on my iPad, it's in my truck with me, and it's on every single person who works on the farm and all of our team's phones as well. So the amount of access that we've got to the decisions, the information that Omnia has been gathering this season is so much greater than it was before. I can walk into a field, I can take notes, I can take photographs, and I can see exactly the decisions that I previously made in that field. That'll help me and aid me with my next decision that I might be making there and then.
I mean, I start off with the focus on the farm map. I find it much easier to visualise things rather than have them on spreadsheets. So I can alter things on the map as I'm going along, and that's been really, really helpful. It makes it much simpler for me to use.
Being able to see real-time information in the field is super helpful for the operatives as well, know that they're applying the right things. Even if I've made a mistake in the office, if there's something that doesn't look right, they can see on their screens what should be being applied. Sort of a double check, we know that what is being applied should be applied and it looks right and feels right.
You know, we can track everything that we're doing from like the weather, yields, sowing dates, sprays, nutrition, all sorts.
All of the SFI, the stewardship schemes, they're all map-based schemes. So having something like Omnia, which in its roots is map-based, is really important and works really, really well because it means you can layer all of those schemes into Omnia and bring them in to the technical and operational management of the farm software in a way that some of the other systems that we were using didn't. In terms of the compliance piece, I mean, like all of them in the marketplace, it has to have very thorough pesticide regulation and legal compliance. That functionality is excellent.
The compliance issues all are flagged up within the spray recommendations. If you exceed the maximum limit, it asks you for a justification under the spray record system, so you're automatically warned that you're potentially doing something that could break your compliance. So it's really, really helpful.
Well, all of our growers seem to be talking about the Scout app. Lewis, tell us a bit more about it.
Yeah, so the Scout app, I mean, when we sort of started off down the route of giving people the option to have a fully digitised end-to-end system, we knew that we needed to have an app that would work in the field, it needed to work offline, and it needed to have key features that people would want when they're away from the office. Because of the power that's in smartphones and tablets these days, we're actually able to give some really powerful, novel tools that people didn't have before with a paper-based report.
So in terms of that record keeping that you can do on the go, it ties well into a question we've actually had from a farmer who says that time is the biggest barrier. They're a solo farmer. How does the app make it easy to get those records done and dusted as quickly as possible?
Yeah, I mean, we've always, when we've been developing the platform, made sure that we cater for somebody that wants a more simplistic approach or somebody that wants a more advanced approach. So it's quite simple to do. It just auto-wishes it onto the phone. If they're just out, say, rolling a field of grass and they want to log the cost of doing that, they can just go into the records, add a record, say they're rolling 20 hectares today. That comes back into Omnia, and at some point later in the future they could attribute a cost to that or put that into the costings of that field.
Record keeping for compliance, environmental schemes, Ollie, is increasingly important, albeit the landscape around environmental schemes is pretty challenging at the moment. How does Omnia support that compliance?
I think what it allows people to do is complete and create the records for all the tasks they're doing, whether it is product applications, whether it is tillage applications, whether it is crop inspections, whatever it happens to be to suit the nature of the farm. And I mean, we have been talking a lot about the app. I think it is also important to say that actually you don't have to use the app. So for the people that still do want the piece of paper, those pieces of paper can come out. And I think that the way that the record keeping side of farming is becoming more burdensome in some cases, the ability for the system to help farmers with that is a really important thing, particularly when we look at the intensive root crops, veg crops, fruit crops, where the record keeping is kind of very much next level compared to combinable crops.
And Lewis, how does Omnia help farmers move from just gathering the data to actually using that data to inform decisions and strategies across their farming business?
Yeah, so there's a number of tools in there. You know, there's a sort of rotation planner tool within the suite of business tools that we have. A tool that lets you sort of play out different scenarios. Okay, you know, we've never grown beans before. Let's throw some beans into the rotation, see what that looks like in terms of gross margin. Will that make better use of our sort of nutrient status within that field? So you can benchmark that, and you can actually then run scenarios about costs. For example, you can say, okay, let's build in an inflationary 5% increase in wheat price, input price, whatever that might be, so that you can play that out 2-3 years ahead and try and inform those decisions.
And also on that as well, I think that what we're finding where people have been using the platform for say 3 or 4 years now is that they're able to go back and say, look at inspections they made 3 or 4 years ago, look at the pictures they took, look at the notes they took, and it's all there. So it then helps to really kind of go, oh yeah, well, the last time that crop was grown here, we observed this. So actually it then really helps to make the decisions for the following year.
Ollie, we heard from cereal farmers in the video. We have had a question about Omnia's capabilities for livestock. Does it do anything in terms of that livestock data, or is there any way it can complement a mixed farming system?
Yeah, so there's a number of things that we do within there. We do complete manure management plans, so not just in terms of actually, say, planning out where those manures are going to be applied, but also the MVZ rules, making sure that they're compliant within the farm. Compliance is an important thing. The actual management of the grass crop as well, again, feeds into all of the tools that we have. And again, the actual crop doesn't really make a lot of difference, whether it's wheat, whether it's grass, whether it's apples, let's say. The actual management and the record keeping is the same. We're just talking about different crops.
So we've had another question from a grower who has a large workforce, plenty of people working in the business. How does Omnia help with, I guess, the management of all those people?
Yeah, we've got a number of customers that have got 40, 50 members of staff, typically kind of the intensive root businesses, intensive veg, fruit businesses where they've got a lot of staff. And one of the things that we've built in is a task management system so that then jobs can be created and then sent out to those people.
Again, coming back to the sort of either end of the scale, you know, if it's a simple operator, sort of one-man band farm, you know, you can just make a plan, effectively issue it, complete it in the field, pretty straightforward. So it's probably best if I sort of hand over to our able assistant, Adam, to sort of talk us a bit more through that process, really.
I'm going to try and play the role of farm manager, but what we're looking at here is the task manager view within Omnia. And you can see here that we've got a range of a few tasks which we have created on farm. And I think it's important that we kind of state from the outset that as much as a lot of tasks will come from spray plans, nutrition plans, seed plans that have been created, we're not limited to that. So we can use tasks to cover a lot of what happens on farm, things like cultivations, mowing, inspections, whatever it might be. We can set that as a task to someone on farm. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to click into this T2 and we see we get some information on the task being provided to us. So we have information on the fields, we have the plan which is going to be carried out, and we also have some information on the operation itself. So what we've done ahead of this is spent some time setting up our equipment shed so that Omnia knows what power units we have, what implements we have, and the combinations of those, so that we can start to pull costs out of that and attribute that to the cost of production. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and allocate an operator to this so that we know who we want to carry this out. And in this case, we'll just click into operator and we've got a couple to choose from, one of whom is Lewis. So again, it's just worth pointing out here as I select Lewis that it's very much up to the owner of the holding who they invite onto their farm. So we've invited this operator to join our holding, but as the owner of the holding, I have control over what he sees and what they are able to access, because obviously we've got a lot of financial information, so we want to be quite sensitive about who sees what.
Is that the same for if you have a different agronomist, perhaps? How does that work if they're advising and setting the spray recommendations?
Yeah, spot on. So it's not a case that you have to have a Hutchinsons agronomist in order to use task management in Omnia. Again, you are, as the owner of the account, the owner of the holding, you are in control over who you invite into it. So you can invite your agronomist, your operators, your consultants, whoever that might be, you've got full control. So at this point, I've added my operator, and all I'm going to do now is just issue my task and save. And we'll see now that it has converted over to issued status. So at this point, it should now be with our operator out in the field.
Thanks, Adam. So yes, I'm going to put my operator hat on for this bit. If I was jumping the sprayer, I would probably change my shirt, to be honest, but we'll roll with it. So you'll see in the app, when it's issued to a specific operator, they get a notification to tell them they've got a new task. So they can press download. That'll add the task and open it. Now, again, the first thing to point out is that it gives them a visual map of what fields are actually to do in that task. And the first page, so they can sort of customize that to see more or less of the map. And that the overall task details are, you know, when's it need to be done, what's the total product requirement, and what machine they're going to be using. So if we move into the actual plan section, in this case it's a spray plan, so we've got 2 products, 2 rates, and when you actually choose the fields, it actually then tells you how much product you actually need for the fields chosen. Now, one of the sort of nice features we've been able to build into the app is the load calculator. So if I just go down to that, what that allows you to do is we've got your capacity of your sprayer, which you can customize, the water volume you can customize on the day. And depending on what fields you've got selected, it will then live update how much product you need and how many tank mixes you need to complete that actual task.
And I think this is a really good point as well, because this specific tool was a thing that was asked for by our users. So we said, actually, you know, we can build that, and then we've then built it based specifically on what operators asked us for.
Now, just to go ahead and complete the task, we've got all the usual things: start and end time for that task, weather conditions, you've got your health and safety, PPE, all of those bits of information. And at the end of that, we just go ahead and hit create, and then that's that task now been completed. So now that we've completed that task in the field as the operator, I'll remove my imaginary PPE and hand back to Adam.
So, I'm sat back in the office and that task has now kind of vanished off of the to-do list as such. And what's really important is actually now if I go across into the records tab, we can actually see that that record has been created by virtue of my operator completing it in the field. So I can find that same information that he's just input out and about on screen in the office. And what we've done very quickly there is gone through from a plan to a task and then right through to a record being created. So that seamless transition from one end of the process to another.
And one thing you'll note in the bottom right of the screen there is actually that it's selected the stock to remove from that task. So that sort of leads into how the stock management side of the platform is sort of seamless as part of the whole process.
Absolutely. We'll move on to the stock management, but one first point, I don't want to state the obvious, but we aren't in a field. We have got connections, we've got Wi-Fi. If that's not at your fingertips, Lewis, how does the platform work around that?
I think it comes down to how you get used to how you manage your farm. I mean, if you know there's dead spots out in particular areas of the farm, which inevitably there are in some cases, then you just have to get into the habit of syncing the app before you leave the office or the farm. And you've then got that downloaded onto the device, be it the phone or the tablet, so that you can use it offline when you're away. And then when you get back to the office or signal comes back in, then it'll then seamlessly sync that back to the office. So it's just about work and practice, and you'll know your farm where those areas are.
And so, Ollie, the next step of the process, we've completed that task, the spray has gone out of the shed. How does Omnia help with that stock management? Because that budgeting, efficiency, managing shortages is really, really vital for farming businesses. How does Omnia help? So
there is a complete stock management system built in. As we just saw there, when that task was done, the stock was then taken out at that point. Stock can be managed, it can be brought in, it can then be used. We can do stock management functionality, stock taking, and then pricing can be put in, which then feeds into the crop gross margins.
And I guess a part which underpins all of this is the financials and accounting, the actual budgeting itself. Is there any capacity to link to accounting software which businesses already have in place? We've been asked about Xero in particular. Can that be made possible?
Yeah, so again, that is an area that we've been asked for. That's an area that is very soon going to be coming into the platform. So when an order is created within the platform, it can then create a bill in the Xero system, so that then when that bill is then paid, the pricing then comes back in. And Xero is the first one of these that we're doing. There's going to be a couple of others over the next few months linking to the cloud-based accounting systems that our customers are using.
So that's the stock management for inputs. What about the actual grain storage itself? Is there capacity for weighbridge tickets, making account of that?
So at this point in time, there is a fairly straightforward, simple way to manage grain trading so that you can then put in actual costs. So again, you've got that actual sale price versus a budget sale price. So when you're looking at net margins, you've got those figures coming into there. One of the features that our users have asked for is more functionality around grain storage, grain store management, loads in and out, and that is an area that we are going to be working on over the coming months.
Well, let's bring this all together and see how farmers and growers are using all the functionalities of the Omnia platform.
In terms of stock management, that's a really important part of how we operate as a business. We balance sheet all of the inputs. That enables us to buy forward, buy in bulk, and for that not to be impacting the profit and loss of the farming business. So both the Omnia and the Velport teams have worked really closely over the last 12 months to ensure that that stock management piece is both as good as we've had before, and more importantly, irons out the gremlins and makes sure that it's a better functionality, more streamlined in the future.
The more we use the stock function on Omnia, the better we're finding it. So we're placing all our orders, seed, fertiliser and sprays through the orders part of the field diary, and then from there we can then track exactly what's been applied to each field, put a cost on that then runs through the finances, and it's allowing the inventory to be far more accurate than what it's ever been before.
The finance side, I'm really starting to learn how to put together gross margins, net margins for particular fields and for particular crops. On the stock side, it's taking a bit longer, but I do think it's probably more intuitive than any other software package I've used at the moment.
Always having Omnia's live stock allows me to look at it, and as long as a work plan has been completed from someone's phone, that is a live picture of what we have in stock. So when it comes to ordering new products onto farm, I'm able to make those decisions very quickly. And it's very accessible for the team to be able to go and do stock takes on a monthly basis to make sure that we are keeping on top of our inventories and stores.
We have 1 or 2 suppliers of cultivation equipment, drills, sprayers, combines, that kind of stuff. So we have a real consistency across the farms of what hardware, what machinery is being used, variable rate maps. In the past, it sat on various different platforms. Often you needed third-party pieces of hardware to interact between the farm office and the tractor, or the farm office and the sprayer. And so the ability of Omnia to be able to communicate directly with those machines in a real-time basis for the operators was a really important factor to us when we were looking at where we were going to go in terms of our farm software.
We use variable seed rate maps, variable fertiliser maps, and we've started using variable spray maps as well. You can just send those maps from the office straight to the tractor. The guys can be sitting in the field waiting for it, it pops up, they load it up and off they go. We know it's getting applied right, we know that we're doing the most efficient job we can, which when margins are where they are and wheat price at £160 a tonne, it's absolutely vital.
We pull in the yield mapping from John Deere, so that works quite well. We're able to export maps and coincide maps with other software packages on kit, which is proving quite helpful as well.
Omnia has really helped us increase our efficiency. We use it on a day-to-day basis. It's a farm management tool that we kind of live by. It saved us so much time just from having all of our information that we need in one place that we can access at any time. It's really forward-looking, so looking at things like precision agriculture and productivity and efficiency, which are all really important in kind of maintaining high profitability.
Omnia has definitely saved us time. It's definitely made us more efficient. In the field, they've got records that are right there, they're up to date. If we want to change something, I can update in the office and they can get the new updated plan, rather than me having to get in the truck, go out and see them, give them a new bit of information, then come back. And the same with record keeping. They put straight into Omnia, into the Scout app, what they have applied. That's instantly straight back in the office. So we don't have this duplication of information going from the office to the tractor and back again.
I think it's brilliant to see how farmers and growers are really seeing the benefits of using Omnia on their farms and in day-to-day running of their businesses. And Hutchinsons is known for agronomy, not software. Has that been a help or a hindrance, do you think, in getting Omnia to where it is now?
It's very much been a help because we are intrinsically linked to the business. We understand what farmers are trying to do. We're also very close to our users. So again, we've spoken about getting user feedback. It's very easy for us to get that.
Also, we know who to speak to. Particularly recently, we were sort of adding some new functionality around the seed module and, particularly around the veg market. And we were able to go to some of the key veg growers and key veg agronomists and actually say, okay, how do you want this to work? So we then got that sort of instant feedback to us.
And have you had any surprising feedback, Lewis? Anything that growers say which you weren't expecting?
What surprised me, I think, how much farmers love a good report, to be honest. The more users that we've put on, some people want specific things for, say, traceability reports. They want to get the data out into a good old-fashioned spreadsheet that they can play around with to their heart's content, really. So, that's an area that we focused a bit on as well.
And Lewis, moving behind the software, we've had a question on somebody who's asking about the data and moving it if you're switching systems. Does Omnia facilitate moving from any system? How does that work?
I'd love to say there's a magic button that just, hey presto, moves your data across, but we have made an effort to really make that as simple as possible. So you can take your boundaries in, all your field names and cropping in from other farm management software. There's sort of imports that you can do, both on a sort of manual basis and a direct connection, depending on what system that is. And yeah, you can sort of get your boundaries off the RP website as well, which, you know, within 5-10 minutes, you can get a lot of that information to come across very easily. There's a support team as well who can help facilitate that move as well.
And change is inevitable, isn't it, Ollie? We have to move with the times in farming, and Omnia is a good way to make that change.
Doing nothing is not a choice for most British farmers now. If we look at changing machinery, changing cropping, farmers are always very able to adapt to change. This is just another one of those changes that they are going to need to adapt to.
Some people have maybe been on their current platform for 10, 20 years now, and within the next couple of years they're likely to make a change anyway. So, certainly that's something that we can make as easy as possible.
Sounds like the support is very much there for the transfer, but you've got all your data moved over and you're beginning to set up your farm on the Omnia platform. How can you help the user and the grower get that running seamlessly?
We've already talked about the idea that there's lots of support available outside of the platform, but let's just kind of take a second and just show what's available in the platform, because not everyone wants to talk to someone. They just want to get the answer and crack on with their day. So there's over 100 help videos built into the platform, and there is a question mark in the top corner of every single module in the platform, which is the help menu. This will serve you with help information, help content. The way that this is structured is so that you are presented with information that is relevant to the module that you are in. So for example, I'm in the fields module and we can see that we've got information relevant to the fields module. So it saves me having to hunt through lots of information. And these are perfect if I've just got kind of like that one thing that I can't quite remember how to do this. Like I can't quite remember how to edit a field. I can dive in here, watch a 2-minute video and I'm away. Now, if I've got a slightly more complex issue where I'm not quite sure what's going on and I want to talk to someone, we have a dedicated support team, and they are absolutely incredible. The amount of positive feedback I get about that team is deafening, quite frankly. They are absolute experts, they're dedicated, they are full-time support, so they're not sharing that with any other responsibilities. That's their sole purpose, is to be there for growers. And in the help menu, we have access to a phone number if you want to actually pick up the phone and give them a ring. And then we also have an email address if you would rather use that form of communication. So really lots of different options within the platform, and it's kind of up to each client how they want to go about it.
We've spoken quite a bit about permissions. I think whilst you're in here, can you just show us kind of where those permissions are configured? Because I think, again, good to kind of see how that works.
So into the options under our initials, and there's an option here called users and permissions. So it does exactly what it says on the cam. And if we go into here, we can see the users that appear on farm. So we've got a list there. And then the interesting one really is the permissions tab, in that we can come into here and very, very granular detail. So we can, individual bits of functionality, decide how much we want people to see. And we're finding increasingly that customers are spending a lot of time getting this absolutely nailed down. So for instance, here, if we look at stocks, this user on the left-hand side can only view the information, whereas the user on the right-hand side has the ability to edit everything, including financial information. So again, that means that you can kind of do this on a kind of a responsibility by responsibility basis and really make sure you've got your permissions exactly where you want them.
And we spoke about the farms that have potentially got 20 or 30 people. In there, they would see each one of those people and they would be able to configure exactly what each person was able to see and also edit as well.
I've had quite a few people say, yeah, I want to invite my father in to be able to see all of the farm, but for goodness sake, make sure he cannot edit or delete anything, because he could create a lot of carnage in there. So.
We've talked so much about the breadth of different farms, enterprises, number of employees and workforce. Farms also have such a breadth of different equipment, machinery, kit. How does Omnia work in terms of, I guess, matching with all those different pieces of equipment, Lewis?
Yeah, so we've got various connection options. So we've got sort of direct connections with some machinery through their sort of telematics type systems. We've got manual file transfers to certainly dozens, tens of different machinery types that we're sort of constantly adding to as well, you know, to cater for sort of older machinery, newer machinery, whatever people have out there on farm. And certainly the whole connections area is moving at a pace as manufacturers bring new sort of technologies forward, and that's something that we're continually updating. And you know, it's certainly a focus area for the coming months, is to really sort of add more and more connections to that. And as we move forward, we'll be able to sort of bring more data back in from the machine, send more sort of data out to it, and you know, that'll be a constantly evolving situation, really.
Ollie, we're hearing about the benefits of Omnia, but obviously this comes at a cost, and it is something that we've been asked about online. What sort of investment are farmers looking at to get Omnia on their farm?
So we've got a range of different options. So we have the option to create a free user account, and then we have options all of the way to kind of the full business manager package. We charge it on an annual per hectare fee, and the price of that is £6 per hectare. However, depending on the scale of the farm, the bigger the farm is, then the per hectare fee then does fall away depending on scale. So actually it's very much a discussion between us and the farm to say, right, well, what functionality do you need? How big is your farm? And then at that point, we then will produce a price based upon that. It is also worth saying as well that over the last 2 or 3 years, we've kept the price the same, but we've added in a lot more functionality. So it's very much about making sure that our users get the most out of it rather than anything else.
Well, I think we should hear from some of those growers who have made the decision to invest in Omnia.
So the transition to Omnia went seamlessly. We started it about 5 years ago, and our full transition 18 months ago. We got great support from Omnia. They had informed us it'd be about a week or two to make that transition. I think it was a number of days.
56,000 hectares we transferred over on one day across to Omnia. It went as we thought it would, which was the operational side was pretty smooth from the start, and then over the course of the year, as the project has come fully into fruition, we've worked really closely with the Omnia team to make sure that the reports and the information that we require and have always required in our business match the outturn from the program that they've put together.
I don't think it's ever easy to start a new system, but I think one of the joys of it is that there's an element of co-design in the process, which means that we can feed in some of the worries that we have, and the Omnia team are really good at trying to get that software to work for me.
So the transition to Omnia went very well. We had a lot of support from the support team. I'm sure they were fairly fed up with hearing from us by the end of it, but it was a very neat and streamlined way of getting all our information out of Gatekeeper and into Omnia. We've been feeding back, and what's been really nice to see is all of that feedback gets listened to, and every single time I log on I see something new, and every now and again it can be something that I said, oh yeah, that's something that I was asking for, and there it is.
The cost of Omnia is a reasonable cost, but our philosophy has always been if you're saving small amounts of fertiliser, sprays or seeds, you're by far and away offsetting any cost of what Omnia is. And it's allowing us to do that easily, regularly and consistently.
There are always concerns about data privacy, but Omnia seems to give me reassurances that I will have full control over my own data, so I'm not unduly worried.
We've had discussions on our previous software that we used about data privacy, and I know I had discussions early on with Omnia and Hutchinsons about it. We feel confident in them from the answers we've got back from them that our data is secure, it belongs to us, and if we want to stop using the platform or the app at any point, that will be deleted and it's gone, or we can have it and it's only ours.
There's a lot of really good aspects about Omnia, in particular kind of the ability to turn data into actionable insights. It's really forward-looking, so looking at things like precision agriculture and productivity and efficiency, which are all really important in maintaining high profitability.
The three big wins that we get from Omnia are it being cloud-based, which is speeding the whole process up for us and making sure that we don't make mistakes in the process. The fact that it's very visual-based is really, really helpful. And I think, thirdly, the big thing is the helpline. We've got people at the other end of the phone who've been really helpful at putting this together, and going forward, I think that's going to be a major benefit.
We hadn't really appreciated just how quickly we'll be able to change our system. So for the managers and the operators now and the farm offices to be able to move to a completely paperless function has been a real win for us and a huge positive.
I would recommend Omnia to a friend, a colleague or somebody in the industry. It's a very well thought out platform. It's very easy to understand, to pick up, to use. It makes farm management a lot more sustainable. It's a lot more traceable. There's a lot more information that you can store in one place as well.
I think for us, it's fulfilled two really core functions. One is to improve the functionality of the operations, the efficiency, the information, the transfer. But from a wider business perspective, being able to have that visibility across the farms, across the region, is something that we've never had before. And therefore, I think for any farming business, the ability to combine operations and interrogation of data is really key.
We're now joined by David Hutchinson, chairman of the Hutchinsons Group. It's great to have you with us and learn a bit more about Hutchinsons and your role that you've played for the last few years. Tell us a bit more about the company.
Well, thank you. It was started in 1938 by my grandfather in Cambridgeshire, and he was providing services and products to the local growers. Father joined him in the 1950s, and then my brother and I joined our father in the 1990s. Business has grown to become a national provider of services and products to farmers and growers. And we pride ourselves on the longevity, the quality of service, and a commitment to investing in the future.
Let's talk about the people at the heart of Hutchinsons. How vital are they to the future of the business?
They are critically important to the business. Without the great people that we're fortunate enough to work with, there would be no business. We now number over 500 in total, and that's all across agronomy, support, administration, distribution, software developers, digital specialists, environmental specialists, soil health specialists. It's a wide range of expertise.
There is definitely a sense of the heritage and the family nature of the business. How important is this for your customers?
I think it's important, but I think much more important is about the future and what we can provide in the coming years. We're sort of proud of our history, but we're not going to rest on our laurels. So as an example, we started developing Omnia 10 years ago with a view to those sort of services, digital services, being really important for our clients' future.
And did you ever envisage that this is the sort of solution that you'd be providing to farmers and growers across the country?
I think you have to start, and we've tried to maintain a degree of flexibility as to how the software develops, because we anticipate future requirements, but nobody has the perfect crystal ball. So we have to react to changes that become apparent and make sure that the software can cope with those.
We've watched many Omnia users in the video who are really singing its praises, to be honest. How does it feel to be getting that customer satisfaction? You know, people on the ground who see the difference it makes.
It is pleasing, of course. We try to make sure that in the development of the service, we're taking input from a variety of sources, whether that be the farmers themselves, the sprayer operators, agronomists, technical specialists, farm business consultants, etc., to make sure that the software can accommodate the requirements of the farm and all those associated with it.
There will, of course, though, be, I guess, natural scepticism from people seeing an input supplier such as Hutchinsons now providing software. What would you say to people who are perhaps sceptical?
Well, I understand that, but I think there are some significant advantages as well. So Omnia is a separate service. Some of our Omnia clients only take Omnia from us. They don't take any of the other services and products. But of course, many clients take a variety of services and products from us as well. But it's the farmer's choice as to what they do. I think the positives are that the development of the software and the way it's supported is underpinned by a deep understanding of crop production and agriculture generally. And I think that really helps to make sure that the software is as comprehensive as possible and as relevant as possible for our clients' needs. So I understand the concerns, but I think there are some very significant advantages as well. The other aspect I'd like to emphasize is that Omnia is a core part of what we do, and we are a provider of comprehensive range of services. And so Omnia will be forever part of what we provide, and we're committed to continuing to invest in it and make sure that it's as relevant as it possibly can be.
So David, why have Hutchinsons invested in Omnia?
Well, I think from the mid-1990s, we've been excited about the opportunity that technology and digital technology can provide to farmers and ourselves in helping to drive sustainable and profitable crop production. And I think we're now at a point in time where the technology is aligning with the opportunity. And we started investing and developing Omnia 10 years ago. With the advances in software that's available to us for programming, with the advances in agricultural machinery, GPS, variable rate application, etc., we're now in a position to realise the opportunity that technology, combined with the judgment and expertise of farmers, agronomists and others, can make to the future of UK farming. So those benefits are now realisable, and we can see future benefits coming through which will further help the farming community to drive their business efficiency and profitability.
It is as simple as that. Why is this investment worth it?
Well, because I think perhaps it's even more worthwhile during difficult times for profitability, because those marginal gains can be the difference between profit and loss. We've seen some very significant improvements in clients' bottom line performance through more precise use of inputs and therefore a more efficient cost of production.
Let's move on to a concern that I guess many farmers and growers have around data. It's a question raised, in agri-tech conferences across the world. How do Hutchinsons and the Omnia platform, how do they make sure that your data's secure?
Well, I completely understand the point, and I think data security in farming and frankly in life in general is so fundamentally important. So there are a number of principles. Firstly, this is the farmer's data. Secondly, the farmer client controls who has access to the data. Now, for some farming clients, that might be multiple points of access: sprayer operator, farm business consultant, landlord, etc. But the point being that access to the data is controlled by the client. And then our reputation is obviously very important to our total business, not just to our Omnia-related services. So we recognise how important data security is, and therefore it's number one priority for us in the Omnia context. And then there are two external reference points that can help our farming clients be completely confident about our data security. Firstly, we're signed up and regularly audited by ISO 27001, internationally recognised standard on data security and governance. And then second, we are a member of Farm Data Principles. That has to be fully authenticated and accredited. And I think I'm right in saying that we're the only agricultural software business that has both ISO 27001 and Farm Data Principles accreditation.
Absolutely. You mentioned the regulation and compliance standards there. Is there anything else that you would pull out that puts Omnia above the competitors in the field? What would you say to people, looking at the other options?
Hutchinsons is a long-term business, and we want to be providing services and products to UK farmers for a very long time to come. Our reputation is on the line, and a breach of data security would not help that reputation. So if anything is going to concentrate the mind, I think that probably will.
Well, let's open it up a little bit in terms of that future that we're talking about, that digital future. Lewis, what does the future of Omnia look like? Is there anything that farmers can expect to see in terms of the development of the software?
As we've sort of touched on throughout the programme, Omnia is continually developing. We've got a farmer focus group, we've got agronomist focus group, we regularly speak to operators just to get that sort of feedback to make sure that what we are developing is the sort of right things, not just in the coming months, but the years ahead. What are the needs of growers, farmers going to be, not just 3 months ahead, but 3 years ahead.
And Ollie, how do you see Omnia helping farmers navigate what looks to be quite a tricky future, at least in the short term?
I think one of the things that our users are really asking us for is to allow them to move their data to different tools that they are using, whether that be machinery tools, whether that's accountancy solutions, whatever it might be. And certainly over the next 2 or 3 years, we'll be investing a lot of time in connecting to those tools. The farmer will still be allowed to have complete control over that and choose who and how they're going to connect, but making it much easier for them to pick and choose the tools to right for their business and for the relevant data to move between them in a easy way.
And David, if we may have a final word from you on the future of Hutchinsons, does it look bright for you?
Well, we're very confident in the future of UK agriculture. We appreciate that it has its ups and downs, but the long-term prospects we feel are very positive. As far as Omnia is concerned, we see a real need for it. We think it's relevant that it's been written by a British-based business for British farmers, and we'll continue to develop it in light of the changing needs of British agriculture. So we think there's a bright future out there for all those people who want to grasp it.
Well, a bright future. I think it's a brilliant way to end today. And I'd like to say a really big thank you to everybody who's joined us, David, Ollie, Lewis and Adam as well. Your insights have been really valuable and I think pretty inspirational for the people at home as well. To the people joining us from home, thank you so much for sending in your questions and for taking the time to listen to us today. Ultimately, it will be you, the growers, who help to shape the future of Omnia. If you'd like to learn more about Omnia, please do head to any agricultural events and catch up with the team in person. Head to the website or drop us a line on the email address coming up next. Thank you.